Hey everyone, you're watching In the Boat with Ben TV. I'm Ben,
And I'm Rachel.
and today we're going to answer the question, will screens melt my kid's brain? Somebody told me that once. They said, Ben, if you watch too much TV, that TV is going to melt your brain. Did you ever hear that growing up?
No, I heard when I sat too close to the TV that I would go blind.
Oh, yeah. Okay. If you haven't noticed, screens have become more and more a part of our daily lives, and that's just going to continue to increase for us and for our kids. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Screens have made it possible for us to connect in ways that we've never been able to before. We're able to talk to people who are on the other side of the planet face to face. That's pretty cool. So I say screens are good if used the right way.
Mhm. Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics has some guidelines for us on how much screen time we can allow our kids to have. They recommend that children younger than 2 have no screen time at all. And it has to do with the way that the brain is developing and the changes that it can make on the brain. And child development specialists just recommend not letting kids younger than 2 see screens. But for children who are older than 2, they recommend no more than 2 hours a day, which seems a little bit excessive to me.
I don't know if you add it up over the various devices that we use throughout the
Yeah,
day,
that's true.
it can add up to 2 hours pretty
I
quickly.
probably use just that for a Kindle reader.
While it's important for us to consider how much time we're allowing our children to watch screens, I actually want us to focus not on the amount of time and the fact that they're using screens, but I want to focus on a value that really guides us when it comes to our children and the time that they spend with screens. And that is the value of creating versus consuming. We're going to talk about how screens can be a very useful tool in creating things and how really any tool that we have at our disposal, if given the choice between consuming and creating, we want to lean more toward creating things.
When we're leaning toward creating things, everything that we consume informs that creating. And so, whenever we're consuming things, we feel inspired by it. If we're watching a movie, we feel inspired to write something or to draw a picture or make up a dance. I don't know.
Make up a dance. I have this experience sometimes where I'll be watching a performer, somebody playing a beautiful song or something like that, and it makes me want to stop watching immediately and go pick up my guitar and write a song because I'm so inspired by the beauty that they've created. And had I not consumed that, it wouldn't drive me to actually creating something. And so sometimes consuming can be a catalyst for creating when creation is the underlying value.
Consuming can also be a teacher
Hmm.
because every time we consume something, if it's a movie, if it's a book, we're learning more about story, we're learning more about art, we're learning more about technique. And when we're consuming those things through the lens of creation, then consumption can be a teacher for us.
Well, and it really can be teaching in a direct way as well.
Mm-hmm.
There are tons of YouTube videos out there with instructions on how to do various things. I mean, this channel really is a resource for developing relationships with your kids and maintaining a healthy work-life balance. So this is a form of consumption for you who are watching, but it's also teaching. It's something that will make your life better and will enrich your life. And so because of that, consumption does have a place and a purpose.
And you know what consumption also does? Within reason.
Hmm.
It gives us a break as parents.
That's right. Sometimes the TV is a pretty decent babysitter,
It's so bad.
but you know it's true. Now, on the other side of using screens for creating, screens are actually a really useful tool to allow you to take the beauty and the imagination that's inside of you and share that with the world. Now, you can do that without screens. There are tools that allow you to share songs and pictures and images and ideas, but screens really take the creative process to a whole new level. And they allow you to, in many cases, get from an idea or a concept to a finished product much faster.
You know, back in the day, when novelists would write their entire manuscript instead of
Like by hand.
by hand,
Oh.
like hundreds or thousands of pages, in the case of like Victor Hugo or somebody who wrote like 1,000-page novels. But they would literally cut from the manuscript and move it around if they needed to, which I can't even imagine how much time that took. I mean, I can do it in 2 keystrokes
Hmm.
on my computer.
I remember using an old typewriter, and they had the ribbon for
Yeah,
erasing,
the eraser. Mm-hmm.
but it always left a little
Mm-hmm.
indentation so you could see where you messed up.
It's like, oh, he misspelled. He
Hmm.
misspelled this word. So.
And if it was on a part of the page and you happened to miss it, you had to like scroll the page back, try to move the thing to the spot.
Yep.
It was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So much faster. We wanted to finish this episode off by giving you a real example of how we use this value of creating over consuming to make some real guidelines for our oldest son, who now uses screens to make things and to play games. And he has one of our old iPhones, and he also has access to some other screens in the house. And we actually separate his creative time and his consuming time. So for his consuming time, he gets up to 10 minutes a day, and that time is for things like listening to music, playing games that he enjoys. He can also use it to watch video walkthroughs of some of the video games that he likes to play, things like that.
And then he gets 20 minutes of creative time. And for that time, he is allowed to do things like post on a blog. And if you've never read a blog by a 9-year-old, you should go check it out because it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's at bentolson.com/Jaden.
Jadon. He's also allowed to do things like photography. So he'll take our old iPhone and just shoot pictures. He also is allowed to shoot movies or certain scenes that he wants to use for a movie. He wants to be a filmmaker when he grows up, and so we feel like that's a good use of the creative time that he has.
Now, to further encourage the creative value of that, I've actually sat down with Jaden and I walked through the process of making a film. So things like writing the original script, to storyboarding, to actually scheduling the shoot, getting your actors and finding the setting, all of those things. And and so as long as he goes through kind of the basic process that we've outlined, I will actually give him extra time to use the cameras for filming when he's doing it specifically for something for a project. The big takeaway here is that it's not really about the screens. There are a lot of tools that can be used for creating things and consuming things, and if not done in moderation, can actually be harmful. And so the value is to focus on creating. When your focus is on creating things and on bringing value and beauty to the world, the times when you do consume will really go to serve those times of creating. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you have any questions or thoughts that you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments below. We'd love to address those in future episodes. And if you want to watch more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. You can also get more content like this by going to intheboatwithben.com. We've got a podcast there. You can also sign up for our newsletter and receive weekly updates when we have new episodes going out. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Moments when you can take a break from your normal routine, not all the time, but every once in a while, can be a great way to shake things up and relieve some stress.
So, are you telling me that it's okay for my kid to miss school just because?
It's okay for your kid to miss school just because. They call it mental health days.